Morning Watch on Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and YouTube Live in the main watch today. Data protection deadline update in the second watch. What's happening or what happened at the 10th Biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference. In our social media question, we ask, why should the diaspora be given more influence when deciding the affairs of the country? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, here's our quote.
All right, good morning. Today's I quote says, "Wherever you go, there you are." This is from an unknown source, of course.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is self-evident. I'm trying to find is there a hidden meaning, or trying to...
Yeah, I'm trying to see what is so, great about the statement. But I mean, wherever you go, there you are. Just leave it there.
The main watch will be back after this break.
June is celebrated as Men's Mental Health Awareness Month internationally. On the next episode of The Mailbox, we will focus on men's mental health. Mental disorders affect men and women. Men are less likely to access mental health treatment than women. Recognizing the signs that you or someone you love may have a mental disorder is the first step toward getting treatment. The earlier that treatment begins, the more effective it can be. You are invited to join us as we speak with Dr. Paul Smith, clinical psychologist, on Wednesday, June 19th at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station. Love 101, The Mailbox, Monday. Hey, man!
Well, welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. And even with the date extended, the time is running out as the June 30th, 2024 deadline to comply with the requirements of the Data Protection Act, which we typically refer to as the DPA, draws near. All the data protection controllers, and we'll be finding out shortly who is a data protection controller or what is, are being encouraged to make sure that they are compliant. Are you registered? We have as our guest today a data protection officer, Mr. Paul Brissett. Mr. Brissett, good morning.
Hi, morning, Stokeley. Morning to your listeners and viewers.
Now, tell us, what is the Data Protection Act? Why is it so important? And if you could help us with the definition of some of the terms, such as the data controller, data protection controller. Mr. Brissett.
Yes, thank you. So, the Data Protection Act, it is a legislation, and this piece of legislation, it governs the protection of personal data, and especially personal data for Jamaican citizens. Okay? It sets out the right and the responsibility of the individuals and the organizations in relation to the collection, the use, the disclosure of this personal data. Most importantly is that this act, it helps to safeguard the privacy and security of individuals, and it promotes trust for the companies who are handling this personal data, and ensure that they are accountable, especially to the, the the data subjects. And this is, I'm segueing into some definitions. I use
Yes.
that term,
Yes,
a data
please.
subject. Um, who is a data subject? Is a simple one. It is any person who is a subject of personal data, right?
So
Um,
does that
so that
include, for
so that
example, of
so
a
that means
customer of a bank?
you, me, your grandmother,
Yes.
your brother, every person, right? Um, every individual is a data subject.
Okay.
Now, the whole fuss is about your personal data. And what is personal data? It is um, any information that can identify you. And so this is it's any information that can identify you, and it's information that is either specific or non-specific. So in other
We're
words,
talking about name, address, your
exactly,
TRN number.
exactly.
Tell us what some of the data is that is to be protected.
So we're looking at your name, your address, your health information, your financial information, um, anything that you can be identified by, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
it is, yeah, yeah.
And the data controller, I'm not sure if we got from you what or who that is.
So the data controller is an entity by itself or jointly who makes a decision on what happens to this personal data, to this information about you and me that is collected,
Okay,
right?
so the data protection controller would, for example, be an institution that you go to do business with. Let us say you go to a remittance company to send off some money to your child overseas or to or another relative. You give them your name, etc. So is a remittance company a data protection controller?
They are a controller.
I
I,
see.
I give you another one. We're on Nova no one. Church, they are data controllers because
So
they,
when you go to church and you might fill out a card to say you're applying for membership, you give them your name, your address, your date of birth, etc. All
etc.
of a sudden, the church, the institution itself, becomes a data protection controller.
They are a controller, yes.
Okay. I think
And
we
they
have
know
covered this on the program on this station in terms of how it affects the church. But if you would like to give us some additional information that would probably put us more on guard and more on alert, please feel free to do so, because I think there might still be many people within the body of Christ who are a little bit unaware as to how much it will impact them.
so specifically for churches, and but for every person who's a data controller, you have to ensure that you are putting in safeguards for this data. In other words, you have to ensure that you can protect it, and that you have the mechanisms to protect it. And it when people hear data protection, they largely think cybersecurity, digital
Yes,
data.
yes.
But data protection it's like it says data. It didn't say cyber security data. It never said digital data. It said data, which means everything. Now, when you go to church
Yes.
and you you get that information, when you give your information, your name, your address, your phone number, all of this is your own personal information. Now, the church has a responsibility to ensure that there is no unauthorized access of that information that they have in their possession. Churches also get a lot of sensitive personal data. The act speaks to personal data as opposed to personal
You mean,
sensitive.
for example, when the pastor does some kind of counseling with a church member or just anyone?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
When they do counseling,
And they might
um,
make notes of whatever the person says to them.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Um, and even when you ask for prayer, because there's a prayer group, and you ask for prayer and you say, I want you to pray for this illness. So no, like all other controllers, the church has to ensure that it has um, consent, especially if it wants to inform other members about any person who
So
asks for
strictly
prayer.
speaking, the church leadership, and I'm speaking broadly now, the pastor, the deacons, etc., they are not authorized to go on the pulpit and say, Sister so and so needs prayer for a particular ailment or illness, unless Sister so and so gives consent to
Exactly,
you saying that from the from inside the church, for
exactly,
argument's sake.
exactly.
How interesting. And
Um,
should this be written consent?
and it has to be demonstrated. So definitely written consent.
How interesting. I think that would create an interesting flip in terms of how churches may operate, because oftentimes someone might say, can you pray for my relative? You haven't seen them at church for a while, they're ill and they have this particular ailment, and then it might be stated in love from the pulpit the very next Saturday or Sunday, whichever day is your main day of worship. But you're saying that this is sensitive information that we're not permitted to just state like that openly in church without written consent,
Exactly.
or we could be in breach of the Data Protection Act.
Could be in breach of the Data Protection Act.
This is amazing.
Because at that point you'll be violating an individual's right to privacy.
I see. Now, if you have a crusade, for example, at church, and persons come forward to get saved and they fill out decision cards to say, I want to become a Christian, etc., and you fill out the card and you hand it in to the usher, or you drop it in a box or something, and it's taken into church leadership, that too must be protected.
That too must be protected. But I take you back a step. When you are going to hand out these cards, you need to have what is called, so the first principle in the Data Protection Act, and there are a bunch of them, is lawfulness and fairness. And lawfulness says that you need to be able to demonstrate using a law to say the reason why you're collecting this data, or a legal justification as to why you're collecting this
So
information.
you need to put in writing why you're collecting this information from the person who just got saved or is
Yes.
getting saved.
And it also, so the other part of it is fairness. And
Maybe
fairness,
that should be like fine print on the back of the decision card or to the
not,
bottom
and
of the
it's
decision
not
card.
a fine print either. It has to be bold.
Bold.
Bold that you are collecting this information, and that you are collecting it for this purpose, and that you are
Mr.
going to
Bissett,
be
we're
storing
upon a
it for
break
this long.
already. We're upon a break already, and this is becoming even more interesting. Listeners, please go absolutely nowhere. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
GPS. Keep it cool, like keep it cool. Summertime hot, but we are bad the doors. Keep it cool, like keep it cool. No place to see it, it's up the jars. Out of the fridge, just use a big glue. Remember, no kiss go ice on the glue. If an AC come out, they are hit that AC feel a bit pen up and that. Keep it cool, like keep it cool. This summer GPS, download the tools. Keep you cool with GPS. Download the GPS app today.
Introducing Bethel Bible College of the Caribbean, Jamaica. Choose from our range of options: a 4-year Bachelor of Theology degree with a minor in Guidance and Counseling, or a 3-year Diploma in Theology. A 4-year Bachelor of Theology degree, a 1-year certificate in Christian Ministry, levels 1 and 2. Plus, we'll have 6-week courses which provide you with flexible options to enhance your knowledge and skills. All our programs are fully accredited by the University Council of Jamaica. Bethel Bible College Caribbean.edu.jm.
Freedom Evangelical Association presents Revival Fire on the theme Breaking Barriers, featuring Prophet Bethel Onike from Nigeria. Start time 7 p.m. nightly from June 23rd to June 28, 2024 at Shop 43 Portmore Town Center, St. Catherine, Jamaica. You got to be there. The numbers to call are 489-0704.
In life, the more you have, the more you have to lose.
The more you love, the more you worry. The more you own, the less you sleep.
The more people rely on you, the more you have on your mind.
I have peace of mind,
Knowing that whatever I own,
and whoever I care about are covered by the very best.
with Sagicor Life and Advantage General, get life, health, and general insurance to help you protect what matters most.
The Ministry of Justice's Legal Aid Council invites you to the Kingston leg of the Legal Aid Fair for Persons with Disabilities, Friday, June 21 at 10 a.m. at the Emancipation Park. Persons living with disabilities will have an opportunity to access justice services such as legal advice, victim support, child diversion, and restorative justice, and many other government services. That's the Legal Aid Fair for Persons with Disabilities, June 21 at 10 a.m. at the Emancipation Park.
MJ, taking justice to the people of Jamaica.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. We're having a very important and interesting conversation with Mr. Paul Brissett, a data protection officer of Data Guardian Consultants. And the topic is data protection deadline update. I was called the name of your institution a moment ago. Mr. Brissett, please continue what you were saying just before the break. And if you would, sir, can you just indicate how things are going in light of the June 30th deadline, which is just upon us? And why should a data controller register? But continue what you were saying, sir. And as I said, how are things going in light of the June 30th deadline? And why should a data controller register? Please continue, Mr. Brissett.
So there is, we stopped off talking about the privacy notice.
Yes.
And
it must be in bold.
And it must be in bold.
Yeah.
So it should say that the type of data you're collecting, it should say why you're collecting it.
I'm wondering, I know I'm putting in here, Mr. Brissett, but I'm wondering if this privacy notice could probably be put in. Not every church has this, but more and more churches have screens or, where they place notices. I'm just wondering if you could maybe hand the decision card to the person to say, I'll write this card up to say why you want prayer or, why it is that, your background information upon accepting the Lord as your personal savior, but the privacy notice could probably be placed on the screen. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some practical way to get around some of the. Or that's not good enough.
You can be creative.
Okay.
But that decision card, when
Yes.
you give out that decision card, you should state on there what you're going to be doing with it. And so, in now giving this new member an opportunity to say, I want you to call me, or I don't want you to call me. I want you to send me an email, or I don't want you to send me an email. That kind of a thing. I want you to visit me. I don't want you to visit me. So you have to get their consent, and this is how you demonstrate that you got their consent. No,
Very
it is
interesting.
important to understand that though you got consent, they can revoke it, and you need to be able to have a mechanism in there to allow them to do that in the same way and as easily as you allowed them to give the consent.
Mr. Brissett, take us to how things are going in light of the June 30th deadline, and why should data controllers register?
So in the publication that came out from the OIC,
and this is OIC stands for, just remind listeners,
Office of the Information Commissioner.
Yes.
On Saturday, June 1st, the all data controllers should have commenced the registration. But there are particular um, industries that are required to start.
Such as?
And those are all public authorities, all data controllers processing personal data, including sensitive personal data or data related to criminal convictions for an estimate of over 10,000 or more data subjects. And it also goes on to say education, finance, health, the ITC sector, tourism, and hospitality. But it also says that if you are in a position to register, you should.
So
As a data
why
controller.
do you need to register? Why would the church need to register? And from what you're saying, it would appear to apply to literally all small businesses as well, and privately owned preschools, maybe even a private gym instructor who has customers or clients, or you have a lot of practical nurses. They might work for more than one particular household or individual who needs care, and they have a list of customers or clients. Arguably, aren't these people all under the statute as well, or covered by it? And why should they all be registering?
Yeah, but let me
Why?
finish up. Let me finish a point and then move on to this one. So the
Please feel free,
for
sir.
for registration, the it was extended. To finish the registration, it was extended to the 31st of August. No, it's important to understand that if
Okay,
you
so June 30th is not the deadline anymore. It has been extended to August 31 of this year.
August 31st,
Okay,
and
so there's a little bit more time, a little bit more breathing space,
yeah,
but still
and
you can't relax. You need to get it done.
no, and
I
from my
see.
understanding, once you go in and start the registration process, if you don't finish that registration process within a 30-day period, then the form is going to reset. In other words, all the information that you would have put in there, you'd have lost it.
I see. So if you started registering in this month of June, for argument's sake, because initially, you knew it was June 30th at first, so you started to register, but you don't finish registering by June 30th. All that information you have will be essentially, as you said, reset, and you'd
Yeah,
have to start registration again come July 1.
yeah,
And you have to ensure to complete the registration within 30 days.
within 30 days.
Interesting. I see. Well, thank you for that bit of information there as well, sir. Now,
So,
how should go ahead?
um, why why should you register?
Yes.
Is it's simply because the regulation requires you to. But if you're expounding on that, is it's provide transparency and accountability to your clients, your
Yeah.
employees, everybody who you process data for, right?
Yeah.
Um, is to have them understand that you take the privacy of the data that you are processing, um, or you have in your custody seriously, right? And then you want to give your data subjects some level of comfort.
Well, speaking about giving them some level of comfort and ensuring that you take their data privacy seriously, this is a bit of a controversial one here, because my understanding, and you're in this space, you can comment on this. I'm seeing where, if my reading of this is correct, a certain section of the Data Protection Act reads, a public authority shall not be liable to prosecution under this act. And the question that naturally jumps out at me, but the government or public authorities collect so much of an individual's personal data. Any comments on that, Mr. Brissett?
Yeah, section
Or
72(3).
it is what it is.
It is what it is. So when I read it, I was trying to understand it myself. Um, I don't think in my search for an answer as to why that's in there has 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 given me anything that has brought me any sort of comfort, um, given the antecedents as to why the data protection was brought into play. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to that a little bit in terms of the genesis of much of this. Because is there any connection? Maybe you know, maybe you don't, but maybe can you comment? But I'm getting the sense that there is a connection between the Data Protection Act and the NIDS legislation. Is that so? And if so, can you expound upon that?
So that is so. The Data Protection Act was brought into play in the manner and special time frame that it came into play um, because of the needs, because of that initial needs
You mean the initial
legislation,
one that was struck
initial
down?
needs legislation that was struck down.
I see. By the
Because
courts,
and
yes.
it was struck down. One of the main reasons was because in that entire legislation, there were no safeguards around how this data that the government is going to be collecting, and market government collects most, if not all, of the information for every single person on this island, right? Um, they collect the most data, and so and in that legislation, it was saying you need to give this information, or if you didn't give it, you could be jailed and or fined.
I
Um,
see.
but there were no safeguards in there about, right, and so
Yeah.
the constitutional court struck it down. And what what would have been a policy type safeguard, if you want to to use that framework, is this legislation, the data protection. Then it
You
feels like
know,
a cop out in the back end that they can't be prosecuted under the act.
well, it is what it is. Well, maybe we can hear more about that provision at some future time. Maybe another guest who can speak to it would be willing to explain a little bit more to us. But never enough time on the morning watch, Mr. Brissett. What can a business do if it has not yet started to comply, which the law says it must?
So the first thing is, so right now, what you need to be doing is registering. Go on the
Yes.
site. Um, you need to go on the site. You need to create your profile if you hadn't, and start the registration process. The registration form it's practical, and you have had to done so. You'd have had to have started doing some work,
Yeah.
especially work around your record of processing activity, to identify what you've been doing, um, the type of processing that's involved, who you're sharing your data with, that kind of a thing, because the form is asking you for that specifically. Um,
Understood.
so
And sorry, continue. I thought you were through.
you can go ahead.
And if just a practical example in the couple seconds we may have left, you might go to a document center because you want to scan and email a document to someone, and it comprises the personal data of someone, maybe a customer of yours, or someone who has asked you to send them information a particular way. You may go to a bank to send a wire transfer to someone, and it contains the personal data of someone. Any comments and any guidance you want to give us there, Mr. Brissett? Because this is also new to us.
So the Bureau of Standards Jamaica has said that if you want to be compliant, you need
Yeah.
to adapt the ISO 27001 colon 2022
Quickly, Mr. Brissett, because
standard.
I'm getting a signal.
2022 standard. And once you have that, or once you have so even if you don't adapt the entire standard, but you've started to implement um, that kind of implementation in terms of security safeguards, then you're on your way to compliance.
Repeat the name of the standard, ISO.
ISO 27001,
I think we have to
and
leave it
that's the
there.
2022 version.
I think we have to leave it there this morning. Never enough time on the morning watch with Mr. Brissett. We do thank you for your contribution today. Very, very interesting. And thank you so much for
Anytime.
updating us.
And I'm willing to come back and have this conversation and continue it.
I think we should have you back, Mr. Brissett. Thank you so much. Listeners, we thank you for paying attention during this first watch. Very important discussion here on the Data Protection Act. Go absolutely nowhere. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
Anything possible with a little savings in your hand.
The time by Jan Bank is
7:31.
Did you know that many of my schoolmates have an unhealthy diet, especially at school, and now 23% of them are overweight and are obese? And so one less sugar drink at my school may mean one friend less, or 2 or 3, at risk of cavities or diabetes. And if we're serving less foods high in saturated fats, sugar, and sodium, it may reduce our risk from obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure. The solution is simple, right? Act now. Let's get unhealthy foods and beverages out of our schools.
a message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
When teeth diapers are difficult to change, it's time for Pampers Easy Ups with 360 stretchy waistband. They're easy to put on and take off, keeping their skin dry and protected.
Changes are easy with Easy Ups. Let's go! Bucket and pin it, every rubbish in a pan. The dirty of the place, this up the island. So keep Jamaica, say me good read, keep Jamaica clean. Better listen to me please. The plastic magnolia blowing at the breeze. Proper garbage, disposal, recycle plastic. Now make it pull up in the streets. Bucket and pin it, every rubbish in a pan. The dirty of the place, this up the island. So keep Jamaica, say me good read. A message from the National Solid Waste Management Authority.
Of the follow Grace Sardine, that's a flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that's a the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody sell it. You all of them nice. Pass the part, never shell it.
Pick up Grace Sardines with peppers, vegetable oil, water, and olive oil with peppers.
Cook it up, we breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Shake it out, spice it up, make it simmer. Grace Sardine, yeah, the better flavor. Quick and easy as you print it. Ready?
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor.
Winnings are on the floor. Winnings are on the floor. 75-inch smart TV with sound bars that they get them away. Samsung Galaxy smartphone a day. S24, S24 day. Plus 3 grand price when I get money for splash. And I eat in a big money cash.
Get trivia prices of data and credit. Switch to Flow or activate any unlimited prepaid plan. Or pay a yard and road bill on time and then pull for chances to win.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have in the Gleaner, Pulse Investments founder Kingsley Cooper has died. We also have among the stories in the Gleaner, 4.2 magnitude earthquake rocks Jamaica. Another source said 4.3. We turn to Loop Jamaica News. Lawyer says Vibes Cartel anxious as he awaits court's ruling. And we have in the Daily Observer, there's a headline here with a picture of US President Joe Biden. The headline reads, Yemen, with an exclamation sign. It goes on to read, Jamaicans welcome Biden's new pathway to U.S. citizenship. And this is written by Harold Bailey, Observer writer. We also have further up on the front page of the Daily Observer, Apollo Compass taxi services up for sale. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we'll read for you some feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, why should the diaspora be given more influence when deciding the affairs of the country? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
A flame burns bright inside the chosen ones, like five-time gold medal champion Elaine Thompson-Hera. Built for speed, relentlessly pushing to go further, faster. Being the fastest woman alive over 100 meters, there's no telling how far or how fast she can go. The triple is on the horizon. Her achievements inspire us to be at our best, doing more for you to be your best. Flow, inspired by her possibilities.
To seize opportunities on your business horizon, you need tailored financing solutions from a partner that takes the time to understand your business. Sagicor Investments. We offer mid-sized to large corporations the debt and equity financing solutions they need to drive growth. Backed by the strength of Sagicor Group, one of the largest financial conglomerates in the region, you can be confident that we will deliver. Make your business move with Sagicor Investments. Contact our capital markets unit at 888 Sagicor.
Affirm Ambulance Services, Jamaica's premier provider of emergency medical transportation. We do medical standby for both private and corporate events, non-medical emergency services, emergency transportation to and from medical facilities, hospitals, and homes, wheelchair provision, nursing homes, and first aid, plus so much more. We are located at 17 Cleardale Avenue, Kingston 10, and we can be contacted at telephone numbers 876-281-1262 or 876-299-2053. Follow us on Instagram at Affirm_ambulance. Affirm Ambulance Services, a firm choice in health transportation.
Everybody needs a helping hand, somebody to understand. In the end, we're all human. People living with HIV, no discrimination. Here to support them through. Respect you as usual. Got to protect them too. Protect, accept, and respect people living with HIV. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Remember, every dream that you have, remember everything that you plan. With J&M Bank, anything possible. With a little savings in your hand. Save for your plan, building house, buying land, what goes and dreams like a plan. Save for your plan.
Living your best life and making memories is priceless. But saving little by little is what makes it affordable. Stop wishing you could. With your J&M Bank savings, you absolutely can. J&M Bank will help you find a way.
June is celebrated as Men's Mental Health Awareness Month internationally. On the next episode of The Mailbox, we will focus on men's mental health. Mental disorders affect men and women. Men are less likely to access mental health treatment than women. Recognizing the signs that you or someone you love may have a mental disorder is the first step toward getting treatment. The earlier that treatment begins, the more effective it can be. You are invited to join us as we speak with Dr. Paul Smith, clinical psychologist, on Wednesday, June 19th at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station. Love 101, The Mailbox, Monday. Hey, man!
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We get right into the second watch now. The 10th Biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference is currently underway at the Montego Bay Convention Center. And this gathering has brought together government officials, private sector leaders, the diaspora community to discuss crucial topics such as investment opportunities, health, education, national security, and climate change. Our guests today have been attending the conference and are here to help us to explore the insights and highlights of this significant event so far. We have as our guest Reverend Michael Aiken, Associate Pastor, Fellowship Tabernacle, Kingston, and feature producer for Family Time on Love 101, and he's a conference attendee. We also have Janet Silvera, award-winning journalist, immediate past president of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, and also a conference attendee. Janet Silvera, Reverend Aiken, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Miss Silvera, let's start with you. Can you describe what the Jamaica Diaspora Conference means to the Jamaican community at large, whether here in the island or elsewhere?
Well, what it has done for the diaspora itself is given them an opportunity to get as involved as they possibly can with the affairs of Jamaica. We already know that their contribution to Jamaica is priceless. We know the impact that they have had on Jamaica, particularly when we did not have our borders open and we were getting no money out of the tourism industry. They were the ones who stepped in and made significant difference for the country. So this biennial conference, which I believe eventually should be staged by the diaspora and not necessarily the government of Jamaica. In other words, I believe that eventually they should be the ones who head the conference, take it over, find the sponsorship, etc., and invite government in afterwards.
Interesting.
But overall, I would say
yeah,
that the diaspora conference is extremely important as it forges the relationships or strengthens the relationship between the diaspora and Jamaica itself as a country.
I see. And Reverend Aiken, are you with us, Reverend Aiken?
Yes, I am here.
No, well, you've heard Janet Silvera. How do you think the church can celebrate the conference? And do you see any connection between the conference and Jamaican culture and heritage to include, or maybe I should put it as a separate category, the church in Jamaica? Because I'm sure a lot of these persons from the Jamaican diaspora are not atheists. They are, in fact, Christians. Quite a lot of them, I'm pretty sure about that. Reverend Aiken?
Yes, well, I do believe that the conference theme to begin with speaks to that. The theme is United for Jamaica's Transformation, Fostering Peace, Productivity, and Youth Empowerment. And the aspect of the theme that speaks to uniting, of course, indicates that, at least from the ministry's perspective, as organizers of the conference, that they want all groups, including the church, of course, all strata society, uniting for Jamaica's transformation. Powerful theme, and something that all people groups, regardless of whether you're saved or unsaved, Rasta or baldhead, you should want to be united for transforming the negative issues here in Jamaica land we love. That theme was reflected throughout the conference. I found out as I attended the plenary sessions and the workshops, of course, all recognized that we all have a role to play in helping Jamaica achieve its potential. And of course, the church should be part of that. Every church, pastor, leader, or journalist listening today should want to be part of ensuring that Jamaica gets to the potential that we have under God. So I was excited at the conference. I loved what I saw. I participated, of course, where there was opportunity in that regard. The sub-themes, of course.
Reverend Aiken, before you go on to the sub-theme, I think we're upon a break already. Listeners, please go absolutely nowhere. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Great sardine for the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
Great sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is
7:45.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and the topic in this second watch is what's happening at the 10th Biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference, and our guests are Janet Silvera, award-winning journalist, immediate past president, Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, and a conference attendee. We also have Reverend Michael Aiken, associate pastor, Fellowship Tabernacle, Kingston, feature producer for Family Time on Love 101, and also a conference attendee. Reverend Aiken, just before the break, you were making a point. Would you like to please continue your point, sir?
First plenary session spoke to Jamaica.
You were going to refer to a sub-theme, I think?
Yes, ma'am, which was reflected in the plenary session, the sessions where all of us as attendees are supposed to attend. It was a basic conference structure with plenary sessions, breakout workshops. And the first plenary session on day one was Jamaica Open for Business, transforming investment and enterprise through diaspora engagement. And I think Janet just spoke to what we all know, that and the Prime Minister too did that at the conference as he welcomed the diaspora and acknowledged that without the remittances that they send to grandma and auntie and children every year, Jamaica's economy would be not as propped up or not as good as it is right now. So there is, of course, a national understanding that the citizens who live abroad must play a part in pushing Jamaica forward. And I think the conference highlighted that again. It was on hiatus for about 5 years, I think 4 or 5 years. So this is a restart and a recognition, of course, that we must all join hands together and ensure that this nation under God continues to grow and develop and achieve its highest potential.
Understood. Ms. Silvera, what discussions, issues, and solutions held or that have been aired so far are of particular interest to you and others like yourself who are associated, maybe with the Chamber of Commerce, which you headed for a while, and others generally speaking?
Agriculture,
yes,
for me,
yes,
was very, very important. And I'm happy that the minister came back with the Buy Jamaica push.
Okay.
And putting in all the other agencies that can help business operators, farmers, etc., to get their food into the international market. 1. 2, productivity. The importance of our labor force understanding that we cannot sit down and say it's business as usual and not produce. Because the Prime Minister spoke about it yesterday. That wage bill of $200 billion, that increase in salaries for the public sector, they won't be able to continue to do that if the people in the country are not producing. And then I've been talking with a number of public sector leaders who have told me that it is the attitude of the people. People will come to work and they feel that they should take 2 hours for lunch, and then they still believe that they should leave work at 4:30. So this is an area that we must understand that we need to improve on productivity. So that's one of the many areas that I was able to sit in and get a lot out of, because I was able to talk with a number of business operators afterwards about this productivity and lack thereof as it relates to it. We're talking about construction sites where a Jamaican will go on the construction site and feels that he needs to go and cook his food, smoke his weed. And so you find that our construction workers are not as attractive on a construction site as another nation. And I'm not going to call the name of any other nation, nationality, but I will just say that then it becomes something like our Jamaican workers don't like to work. But that is not necessarily the case. When they go overseas, they are working as if it's going out of style.
Miss Sylvia, I don't know if you're making any reference to the Chinese. You don't need to comment. Reverend Aiken, were there any issues that jumped out at you that you found particularly interesting at the conference, or that you find interesting because it's still continuing the conference? Go ahead, sir.
Well, yes, indeed, of course. So that, I must just comment for a moment on what Lady Silvera just highlighted. Especially, if you have persons who are listening, who are employers, we constantly see that clash, the clash of what we recognize as our Jamaican culture and the way we behave. And of course, sometimes it comes out as lack of professionalism on a job site or a workplace. And we have to fix some of those issues. I for one, don't think that it came out strong enough at the conference.
It didn't.
Even as Lady Silvera highlighted it again. But there was evidently an attempt to keep the negatives out of the limelight at the conference and focus on the positives. Yeah. But that's for another discussion. But in that regard, speaking of the positives, I was enthralled by the Prime Minister's address and the leader of the opposition's address also. He got a few minutes before the Prime Minister, and he simply spoke to, after welcoming the diaspora, spoke again to the fact that we must be inclusive as we move forward. Because when you think about it, half of our country lives in this island, and another half is spread throughout the world, particularly in well-known nations like the UK and America and Canada. So we're talking about nearly 3 million people on an island and another 3 million outside. So when we count, we ought to count 6 million as citizens of Jamaica, even though, as we know, some of us get dual citizenship. No. But the Prime Minister spoke, of course, to...
I was going to raise that point, but you did. But go ahead, Mr. Reverend Aiken.
To the growth that has taken place in the economy. And he was fairly balanced in doing so. For example, when he spoke to employment and the fact that we now have an unemployment figure of 4.2%, the lowest in the nation's history since independence. But at the same time, he took the bull by the horns and said, listen, I know some of you are saying it's low-paying jobs and we should not be satisfied with that. And he pointed out that it's a first step as far as they're concerned in getting as many people in the workforce as possible, because the choice really was between low-paying jobs and no jobs at all. So they went for what was available with a view to train and upgrade and allow for, of course, a quantum leap to higher-paying jobs as we go ahead. I hope that's not just political talk, and that both sides of the fence, so to speak, understand the importance of that. So, and then, of course, the fact that our crime rate, he said, has fallen by 10 to 12%. The only problem I have with that is that, they have gotten the gangs under control for the most part. When you compare that to 4 or 5 years ago, the security of the state is not as threatened by these young males, some of whom didn't even go past grade 9, but yet they seem to have the skill sets to combat degree-carrying law enforcers. I don't think in that regard, though, he spent enough time and assuring us that they're going to bring it down to zero, because that's where we need to be as close to that as possible. But Dr. Kevin Blake, the new commissioner, during his session, of course, spoke more in depth to issues like that. So, all in all, there seems to, at least from a government perspective and that of the leading civil servants who are so authorized to deal with our negative issues, based on how they represented at the conference, seems that they understand what needs to be done and where we need to go. My own issue is that we just need to get there more quickly. We need to speed up the ship a little bit in that regard.
Yes.
You know, every time I hear a Jamaican being murdered, whether because of gang issues or some other domestic issue, it pains my heart as a pastor, because we ought to be, of course, people of peace, and we are the ones who are representing the Prince of Peace, and we don't seem to be doing a good job in that regard, because we certainly are much too violent a country when you look at the data before us.
Indeed.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yes. I wish that the Prime Minister had spent more time though on youth empowerment, by the way.
Okay.
I think that is an area for me. Mark, I believe that maybe the Minister of Education may have touched on that. I did not get to go to her session, but I was hoping that I would have gotten that out of that speech.
Well, I was actually going to ask you, looking ahead, how can the conference evolve to better meet the needs and aspirations of Jamaicans, both here and abroad? And maybe you're, in a way, sort of answering that question. Continue, Janice Silvera.
Right. Well, I was about to also say that the opposition leaders take on us, including these people who we go to every day for everything else, except when it comes to them playing a more pivotal role
in governance.
In governance, right?
Yeah.
I particularly
such as in Gordon House.
Right, and I'm not sure if they should be in Gordon House. I'm really not sure about that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I do know that they should be playing a much bigger role than they're playing right now.
Such as the right
yes.
to vote.
Yes.
Etc.
Yes. But they can vote, once they don't give up their Jamaican citizenship.
Yes.
There are Jamaicans who come back home and vote.
Well, that's what I meant. Yes, understood.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So those are some of the things that I think we really need to be paying more attention to.
As you know, some of them some members of the diaspora aren't even born here.
Yes.
And some members of the diaspora, for whatever reason, might have given up their Jamaican citizenship. To clarify exactly what I meant.
Right.
And they might still want to contribute because they feel the connection to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying that they should be allowed to because they were born here.
Well, I'm widening the discussion. Some may not have been born here, but they feel as if they were.
Well, I have a nephew who is more Jamaican than me, and he wasn't born in Jamaica.
You see what I mean? Never enough time on the morning watch. Reverend Aiken, a final word you want to leave us before we wrap today, sir? Very interesting discussion.
Well, that issue that you and Lady Silver just brought to the table came up in some of the networking dialogue that took place. And of course, there are those who are afraid that if we would ever take a leap out of the U.S. Book, for example, once you're a U.S. citizen, wherever you are in the world, when the election catches you, you can vote.
Reverend Aiken, more and none, because I do think I'm getting a signal. Enough time on the morning watch, but I think we know exactly where you are going, sir. Reverend Aiken and Miss Silvera, thank you so much for being guests on the morning watch with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Please enjoy the rest of the conference. It was a pleasure having you both. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. And join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And of course, visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel, Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our app, the Love 101 app, and stay connected to the gospel station, Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I am Stokeley Marsh, handing back to Love in the Morning with Jukal.